All right, welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Waiver Wire Show for Week 12. I'm Joe Bond. Over here, Corey Pieper, going to get you a little early access to some waiver wire research that we've got for you this Sunday night as we record before the Sunday night game. Corey and I were talking before the show how it's been a very up and down day. A lot of underperformers. It's been a struggle, and then we get the Panthers, Bryce Young throwing for 448 yards because we all expect that, right? But no, do not go out and pick up Bryce Young. We will not suggest that. However, we will start off here with a Tampa Bay Buccaneer running back who should absolutely be picked up after a phenomenal day today.
Yeah, Sean Tucker. So it has been leaning this way for a while. So it's possible that he's already rostered in some leagues. Yahoo, he is up to 26%, and that jumped substantially in the last couple of days since I looked at it earlier in the week. I think I looked at it on Thursday. But I don't think anybody in their wildest dreams could have projected this. We knew that he was starting to get more carries than Rachaad White. Rachaad White had a good game today too. 10 carries for 51 yards and caught 2 passes for 11, but it was a Sean Tucker show. 19 carries, 106 yards, and 2 TDs. He had at least one of those touchdowns was like 40 plus yards. And then he caught 2 passes for another 34 yards and a touchdown. So if you remember back, this is not the first massive explosion game we've seen out of Sean Tucker. Last year, week 6, something like that against New Orleans, He had a huge game too. And then that was pretty much it. Now, Bucky Irving was spotted at practice earlier last week, just kind of off the side. And they asked Coach Raheem Morris after that practice, what's he need to prove? And he said he has to take some hits. And so right now he's just kind of like walking through. I don't expect Bucky Irving back this week. After that, maybe. But I would say go get Sean Tucker now. And we'll worry about Bucky Irving returning when that happens. But right now, if you had to tell me, like, I can only have one of Sean Tucker or Rachaad White, for a guy who I have a lot of Rachaad White, I'd rather have Sean Tucker at this point because he's coming on stronger, and Rachaad White seems to be fading into the background. I think Rachaad White's good, but hey, they want to lean Rachaad Tucker, you take Rachaad Tucker. So that would be my advice. Get Sean Tucker, and we'll worry about Bucky Irving later.
Yeah, I wrote it's funny. I wrote I like slam dunked a bunch of these sleeper streamer picks from my article over on USA Today. Sean Tucker was one of my running back sleeper picks. Him and Blake Corum. Corum did not do quite as good. But Sean Tucker, the reasoning behind it, and you mentioned how he was kind of gaining ground on White anyway. He, over the last 2 weeks, he's had 2 fewer carries total. So 1 each week. He's taken 21 of those carries for 95 yards. White had 73 yards on 23 carries. The difference was Rachaad White was getting all the passing down work, and I think still does. So that's going to keep him alive. I still think it'll be more of a split backfield, but I was already on the fact that Tucker should be rostered in more leagues and probably starting in a lot of leagues because they were both getting a lot of work. And especially this week, the Bills' run defense is bad. So you should have seen we should have seen not this coming, but we should have seen at least a decent game coming from at least both of these guys. And we did.
We sure did. Moving on here, we sometimes, unfortunately, the waiver wires become because of injuries, and that's going to be a couple of these we're going to talk about here. But this is a big one. My Green Bay Packers found a way to beat the Giants, which is saying something because, man, it was a Giants team that was not much there, but they actually won this one. But in doing so, unfortunately, Josh Jacobs exited the game early in the late first half, later deemed a knee injury. I have not seen, there's not actually a report as to what it is yet. They've just said more testing, but in his absence, who are we adding?
Yeah, it's going to be Emanuel Wilson. He was the go-to guy there, played 70% of the snaps this week compared to 10% for Chris Brooks. I don't see Marshawn Lloyd coming back this week. He would be the only other one that you would have possibly even thought of, but he just does not seem like he's anywhere close to getting on the field. But Emanuel Wilson is going to be the guy. He did do awesome, but I think it was 40 something yards, but he scored.
Yeah.
So that's what's going to be there is and honestly, he would be a guy that if we get word Monday or Tuesday that this is a, 3, 4, 5, maybe season-ending injury, weeks or season-ending injury for Jacobs. Yeah, I hear you, man. Green Bay Packer fan over here. Hopefully he's not. But like if it does become long-term like that, then Wilson becomes a guy who I probably blow the rest of my fab budget on. We haven't had a lot of like, let's go get him like waiver picks this year. And when you get a guy who is going to be on a good offense, typically a good offense, today was hit or miss, and they like to run the ball a lot. Wilson's going to be, a very serviceable back for somebody's fantasy team down the stretch run here. So that would be a must grab for me.
I couldn't agree more. That's the one where I hopefully it's not a season anything, but I expect it to be a while, and the Packers are going to lean on one back. Emanuel Wilson should get a substantial amount of carries and catches. He's a great pass catcher too. So yeah, I'm willing to spend a lot of money to get Wilson on my team right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And another injury, waiver wire, or another option because of an injury here for the waiver wire. Over here for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we had Jaylen Warren get injured, tried to come back in, didn't last long, and exited and did not return. I think the third quarter is what it was. So Kenneth Gainwell is the guy here. Tell us why.
Well, we saw it one time earlier this year. We saw it they played the Vikings over in Europe. Jaylen Warren missed that game. Kenneth Gainwell had 19 carries for 99 yards and 2 touchdowns and caught 6 passes for 35. Today, the running wasn't there. He only had 9 carries for 24, but where he's going to make his make up his ground is the pass catching. 7 catches for 81 yards and 2 TDs again today. So in PPR, that's a 26-point game. Rodgers exited this game early. He left with a wrist injury, I believe it was. So Mason Rudolph filled in.
This is non-throwing hand, at least, I think.
It was, but I don't know if it really matters. Like, Rodgers likes to throw it to the running backs. So if Mason Rudolph wants to throw it to the running backs, and they have a great schedule coming up. We're just talking about how the Buffalo struggles. So they play Chicago this week. You can run on Chicago, then Buffalo, then Baltimore, who looks like they score badass running, but they're not as bad, I feel like, as it says. And then Miami again, though. So depending on how long this is, if you could get him for 3 the next 4 weeks, you're playing him against the Bears, you're playing him against Buffalo, and you're definitely playing him against Miami. So I would prefer Wilson, I think, but Gainwell's a good option too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those, we got to keep an eye on the injury to Warren. It could be, just kind of nothing. They were up pretty big in this game, so I don't think they really had to worry about it either. So maybe they didn't bring it back in on purpose. But Gainwell has definitely proved himself.
Let's look at another guy. Now we talked about my Packers. Let's talk about Joe's Commanders here. And it looks like we might be getting a switch again from Bill Krosky Merritt to Chris Rodriguez.
Yeah, I don't love this one. This would be much farther down the pecking order for me, but look, you probably have somebody on the back end of your bench who's doing you nothing, and so why not take the lottery ticket on Chris Rodriguez and hope that this actually stays the way it went today. He saw a large majority of the carries. I don't have the exact stats up right now. I thought I had it up on this page, but it's not up on the page I have up right now. But he led this backfield, which was, it was like 2 weeks ago. He was just nowhere to be found. It was Bill and McNichols, and that was it. Now this was a competitive game, so I will say that, like, they were in it the whole game, right? I think we've seen in past weeks that when they get down big, and they will probably again because their defense is bad, that the run game just goes away completely, and that's McNichols' time. So honestly, it could be McNichols that you want in this backfield, but I don't trust him at all. I'd rather have the running back who's going to get, at least for the first couple quarters, a large majority of the carries, and hopefully they can keep it somewhat, they can stay in contention in the game and keep him active. But he would be at best a flex play. And once all the teams are healthy, or no, not playing or not having a bye, which will be in just a few weeks here, I think Chris Rodriguez is going to have a tough time scratching your lineup unless something drastically changes. But I don't know.
So let's hear the question then. Would you drop Bill for Chris Rodriguez?
Probably.
Yeah, I think so too. I have some Bill in some places. If Chris Rodriguez is out there, I'd rather play him now. I think Bill is more talented, but for whatever reason, I don't know. I'm not a coach or anything, but he seems to be in the doghouse a little bit. And the official split was Rodriguez had 15 carries for 79 yards and he caught one pass. Bill had 9 carries for 28 yards. He caught one pass. McNichols only had 4 carries for 13 yards, but he did catch 2 passes. So Chris Rodriguez looked the best in this game. None of them looked overly thrilling. Like Chris Rodriguez had a 17-yard rush. But like you said, I'm putting him below all 3 of the backs we've talked about. And I'd probably put him below this next guy we're going to talk about here. So
the only guy I would potentially put him in front of is Sean Tucker, only because I think once Bucky comes back, I think both Rachaad White and Sean Tucker sort of get relegated to nothing. And we know it typically becomes even less work for Sean Tucker. This is how it works out because Rachaad White, it has the passing down, the passing ability. Receiving ability.
Irving, and though
I get it. I get it.
Like, but yeah, sure. With that, everything you said is true. But we could get Bucky Irving next week. We could get Bucky Irving 2 weeks before the playoffs to get him ready for the playoffs. Like, there's just been so little clarity on that. But yeah, sure.
Yeah. So next guy up here, New York Giants running back, running mate of Tyrone Tracy, Devin Singletary.
And Tracy still had a good day. So we were worried the first game after Scadaboo got injured. Tracy came out and it was disappointing, and Singletary overcarried him. But the last couple of weeks, Singletary's looked really good. Tracy's looked really good, as has Singletary. So this week, 19 carries for 88 yards for Tracy, and he caught 4 passes for 51. But Singletary is getting a lot of work too. Singletary this week, 16 carries for 44 yards, including 2 touchdowns. And when they got into the red zone or down by the goal line, Tyrone Tracy went off the field. He left. Short yardage goal lines, that looks like Devin Singletary's role. Now, when we were texting back and forth about this, you mentioned, well, Jackson Dart gets back in there. Does it change? And it's possible, but the reports are out there already that the Giants are telling him, like, you got to be careful. You got to start taking care of your body here. Do we really want to run Jackson Dart on power from the 2-yard line into the middle of the lane and see if he can get in there? Maybe they will because he's a better player. That's true. But I could also see this saying, we don't want to take any more risks on you getting concussed. Let's run Devin Singletary down by the goal line. He got in both times today. He was successful. He's also shown he can catch passes in the past. This week, he only had 1 catch. Last week, he caught 3 for 53. So I think he has a steady role in this offense as a short yardage goal line back who can also come in on 3rd downs, which makes him, I would rather have him, I think, than Chris Rodriguez at this point. But he has a much tougher schedule. Like, he has Detroit this week, then New England, and he still has a bye. So I don't know if I want to play him in any of those matchups. That's the concerning part with Singletary.
Yeah, you mentioned the goal line short yardage work. He has taken all 18 of the snaps the last 2 weeks in those situations. So that is huge. I mean, that's why we like Charbonnet, right?
Exactly. Perfect example.
That's exactly why we like Charbonnet over Kenneth Walker in most cases. Not because he's the better back, but he's getting those important carries where 6 points for a touchdown. That's what you want. So, all right, last up here.
The first week since we started brought the shows back, and maybe the first week all season, there are no receivers on the waiver wire right now. We are going away from a running back, which has been hard to find. We are going to a quarterback. Jacoby Brissett's a top 12 quarterback on volume alone. And so we are going to put Jacoby Brissett on the waiver wire here as somebody to add.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy for Jacoby Brissett, man. And I liked him as a weird, reminds you of like Fitzpatrick a few years ago in Miami, right? Like, it was ugly, but man, it worked for fantasy. You didn't care. And that's exactly what Brissett is doing, man. They're getting down big, and he's having to chuck the ball in a ton. I mean, so much so, Michael Wilson is the leading receiver this week. 15 receptions, 185 yards. Greg Dortch had like 60 something yards. McBride had 120 yards or something like that. It scored. Brissett threw the ball 57 times. I mean, just unreal what's going on here. So, like, if you're going to get, 57 times on the ball, 44 times, another 44, another 36, 31, it's fantasy gold. Man,
Yep.
like he is absolutely somebody who you can start over, these like these fringe QB1 just because he's just gonna have to sling the ball, man. And the schedule, Jacksonville can be good, can be bad. We've seen both sides of them. Tampa Bay can be had. The Rams would be a game I probably would kind of stay away from. That defense is just nasty against the pass. And then, so he gets the Rams and Houston back-to-back 14 or 15. Those are two really brutal weeks for him. And after that, Atlanta, and then championship week against Cincinnati. Like, oh boy, let's go. And, the one thing that I was really hesitant with him this week, I had him on a team and I had to choose between him and Caleb Williams. And I absolutely took Caleb Williams because it was like, Brissett doesn't have Marvin Harrison Jr., who he liked, you could tell was favoring a lot. Still had McBride. But look, we've seen Michael Wilson before, hasn't really, done a whole lot when given the chance. Greg Dortch has had has had some big blow up games before, but we kind of know what he is, right? So I wasn't really like, okay, this is gonna be like a smash spot for him. But man, 452 yards. That was pretty crazy. So yeah, I think he is somebody who you can pick up, start at least the next couple of weeks. Hopefully you got somebody better for 14 or 15 when he plays the Rams and the Texans, and then go right back to him for Atlanta and Cincy if you can make the playoffs with him.
Yeah, volume is key, especially a quarterback. Like you were talking about some of these fringe quarters. I was just looking at some of the names here. I'm playing him at this point. I'd play him over Jordan Love. Even Baker Mayfield is close. Baker's kind of slowed down a little bit. I might play Jacoby Brissett in the right matchup. Some of these guys we've talked about.
Bo Nix?
I think I'd play him over Bo Nix in most cases. Bo Nix, like today was a good game for Bo Nix, but he didn't throw a touchdown. 295 yards, no touchdowns. He's just not been doing a whole lot for fantasy, and they have a bye. So yeah, I think I'd
get Washington in Vegas in week 13 or 14. That's a pretty nice. Those are pretty nice.
Yeah, so I'll play him over. You mentioned Caleb. I think I'd play him over Caleb at this point. He's just, if you're going to throw the ball that many times, and like you mentioned it already, 44, 36, 31, 44, 57, it doesn't really matter. He's averaging 314 yards per game since he's taken over the starting quarterback role here for the Cardinals. That's gold. You need 2 touchdowns at that point. If he throws 1 touchdown, you're good. And if you get 2, great. So,
look, I mentioned Caleb Williams. Man. Caleb's schedule down the stretch is bad. Like, Bears players are downright tradable at this point. Like, if you can get rid of them before the playoffs, and if you know you're in the playoffs, I would try to get rid of them. Pittsburgh, Philly, Green Bay, Cleveland, Green Bay again, and then San Fran. San Fran's defense is probably the worst of all of them, but that's championship week. Good luck getting there with that schedule and Caleb Williams. Like, it's true. Interesting. So yeah, so I've got one for you though. Like, okay, so Brissett, I think the closest one would be like Brissett and like, I don't know, Matt Stafford.
Yeah, it's like in that Stafford Purdy range, right? Like those type of guys. So I think it's so much. This is all matchup dependent, and Stafford. Like today, they won, but he threw the ball so short. Devontae Adams, 1 catch for 1 yard and a touchdown on like 7 targets. Oh my goodness gracious! But like next week against Tampa Bay, I'd play Stafford. I expect that to be a high scoring game. I would play Stafford. Carolina is probably Stafford. Then they play each other.
I'd probably go Stafford because I'm not touching anybody against the Rams
unless
it's like Josh Allen.
Yeah, so it's probably Stafford over Brissett, but I'd take Brissett over Purdy, just because I never know. You can always get the occasional Christian McCaffrey gets the ball a bunch game from Purdy, which I don't think is going to happen. Like Arizona's not running the ball, And Trey Benson might come back and maybe that changes. But from what we're seeing these last month, it is 70% of the time we're passing the ball. And that's so I'll take Brissett like over Purdy, but I'll probably take Stafford over Brissett.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yep. So that's it for the waiver wire show for week 12. Hope you got a lot of good information here. Check out Corey's article that will drop on Monday afternoons with the full list. The top 6 will probably match this. I would imagine at this point, unless something crazy happens Sunday night or Monday. It comes out before the Monday night game. So unless something happens crazy tonight in the Sunday night game, I imagine this list will be the same. But he also has like an extra 20 or 25 or 30 players at the end behind our paywall that suggestion is for, the deeper leagues, for leagues where guys like Emanuel Wilson are already rostered. So best of luck to you all, everybody, and see you all next week. Bye. Peace.